So next I will come to indicators, green manufacturing indicators. So what are indicators? Indicators are something that indicates the state or level of something. Those metrics were actually the yardstick. Actually that was the parameter, or the variables can be defined in other way. So these are my indicators. These can have other further metrics in it. So this is a figure or the indicators, those are given by OECD. OECD is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is an international organization with a mission to promote policies that will improve the economic and societal well-being. So of people all around the world. So they came up with the indicators and they divided into 3 different stages here. So if you could recall, we had input, operations and products as our 3 major stages in manufacturing. So they had a total of 3 plus 8 plus 7, 18 indicators, of which 3 indicators are inputs. Inputs are non-renewable materials and intensity, and restricted substances intensity, recycle and reused content. These indicators tell us that how sustainable our factory is, how sustainable our manufacturing system is. Then in operations, water intensity, energy intensity, renewable proportion of energy, greenhouse gas intensity, residuals that are produced, air release, that is air release intensity that is within our factory or maybe to our environment. Then water release intensity, now proportion of natural land that is being occupied by the factory. In products, finally, when the products, these inputs go to manufacturing concern. After manufacturing, when the end user is there, he says what is recycle and reuse content here also. Then recyclability of my product, renewable materials content, then non-renewable materials intensity here, restricted substances content, then energy consumption intensity of the product here during end use, greenhouse gases emissions intensity. So these all indicators were given by OECD. So I will give a little detail of these indicators here. So what is non-renewable intensity here, non-renewable material intensity? By non-renewable we mean something that is finite, that cannot be renewed. So in general the non-renewable resources are such as iron ore, silver, copper. So these are very high relative to production. Other metals are also there, other metals and minerals are there that are considered critical due to their high risk of maintaining supply or maybe high impact on economy if the supply was reduced. Some of the very critical minerals here include rare earth elements, rhodium, platinum, manganese, and non-renewable materials here are critical. The extracting, processing, transporting of these consumes energy, and these also generate residuals. These residuals is there. So in this intensity, this residual is already there. So this indicator measure the use of the substances that are restricted by law. Restricted by law. So these are substances which are restricted. For example, in certain places lead, blue colorant, dicolorants, those are all restricted to use, and if one has to use that, he has to pay something back to recover the environmental loss in this case. So next I have is recycle or reused content here. Now recycle or reuse content here means this energy to produce the product may be renewable or may be non-renewable. But if it is recycled or reused, it will always have better environmental, better eco-efficiency, I would say here. So this indicator accounts for all the material inputs that are to be used for manufacturing process in your facility by weight other than fuel and water. It excludes materials that are recycled and reused within the facility. So this indicator is also very important. The increasing recycle and reuse content of non-energy material will reduce the total amount of new materials required. So next I come to my operations indicators here. In this case, the first one is water intensity. Now, water intensity, this indicator covers the water that is used in my manufacturing. There are certain manufacturing processes which are water intensive and certain which are not. For example, in metal manufacturing, the water intensity is low. In leather manufacturing and in certain chemical industry, the water intensity is high. And in this case, the water intensity becomes more critical factor. So, now energy intensity, we have discussed a lot about this one. Renewable proportion of energy, this also we will cover. By renewable proportion of energy, for example, the company might be using solar energy or wind energy as some part of the energy that is, some of the total energy that is required for their manufacturing. Then we have greenhouse gas intensity. In greenhouse gas intensity, it is greenhouse gases are actually the group of substances that contribute to global warming. For example, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen oxide and chlorofluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons, and these are released from natural sources, but combustion of fossil fuels is involved, agriculture activities are involved, waste generation is involved, and industrial processes over the past have increased their concentrations well beyond the historical levels in the recent years. So, this is what is happening. So, residual intensity is evaluated as weight of inputs. Here I am talking about all inputs, right, inputs plus weight of the fuel consumed minus weight of all the products. So, there are certain residuals. If you could recall, we took an example of car manufacturing in our life cycle analysis. In that example, we had residuals. For example, 100 kg of total material was the input, and the material that went to the next processing, next stage of processing was about, if I say 900 kilograms, this 100 kilogram was my residual. So, this residual intensity in certain cases is high. This is maybe the weight of releases to surface water, to land, to landfills, to disposal. So, this is all, this is residual to land, to air, to water, residuals go in all these things. Then certain treatment, certain recycling is happening, and some energy recovery to maybe sewage, GHG, residuals go into all these areas here. Next what I have is air release intensity. So, this air release intensity, some of this is already covered in our residual intensity, but this is of an important concern because this directly has an environmental impact. The pollution that is generated is dependent upon the air release intensity. For example, dust particles are there, chips, very small size chips are there, aerosols are produced, all that is part of air release. So, that affects our internal environment in our factory and also the society, like people who are living around our factory. So, if it is all accumulated, for example, in an industrial hub or in an industrial park, if there are numerous industries or number of industries which are producing air pollution, the society or the communities that is living by side of it, or even the whole even the further communities may be affected by this one. So, this is very important. Similarly, water release intensity also deteriorate the health. Then proportion of natural land. Proportion of natural land is not an absolute measure of sustainability of the facility. It actually does indicate the intensity of land used for facility. So, by providing some natural cover, it is a sign to employees and to the surrounding community that environmental performance is a concern of the facility. Now, in my final product, there are these 7 indicators. In this again, I have the recycled or reused content. So, in my product case, in this stage, the first indicator here is, out of these 8 indicators, the first one is recycled or reused content, and we have recyclability as well here. So, how are these two different? This is actually the content of the product that can be recycled, and some content may not be recycled, that directly goes to landfill. So, this is something that can be reused. For example, thermoplastic materials can be remolded, metals can be remolded, recasting can be done again. This is recycled, or this is the content, the weight of the material that is there. Recyclability is actually the ability of the material to get recycled. So, this actually every product is manufactured to be either recycled or reused or remanufactured, or maybe biologically degraded, or to reduce the demand for non-renewable resources and to keep the products out of waste stream. So, some recyclable content is there. Now, these two are dependent on each other. Now, by this renewable materials content, what we mean is that how much is the material that can be renewed. By renew, I means this is actually the indicator that is very similar to the described in this portion, renewable material intensity. This is very similar to this one. What is our non-renewable material intensity here? That is, using renewable materials reduces the demand for non-renewable resources. It works on this approach here. So, this indicator measures the renewable materials content which is derived from the plants and animals of all the products that are produced in the facility in a specific reference year. Similarly, in the same lines we can have non-renewable material intensity. Restricted substance content is, this is in the product, earlier we had in the inputs. So, these are again the restricted substances that is there in the product which are restricted by law. There are legalities involved in this. Then energy consumption intensity is operational energy. For example, we have starred equipment, air conditioners are there. If it is not starred, if it is a 2-star or maybe 5-star, in this case 2-star is more energy intensive, 5-star is less. If everything all is same here, all other variables are comparable, then only. Then greenhouse gas emission intensity, this is again similar to this in operation. So, this is again connecting to this one. So, next I will try to discuss the indicators with respect to the product and my factory level, maybe not factory, industry level overall. So, in product level, certain indicators were developed which are being used as well. For instance, indicator CF, very well known thing. Carbon footprint is very prominent indicator, one of the pertinent indicator that is being used. And this, what is this? This is actually the amount of CO2 or maybe carbon dioxide or maybe methane gas, that is these emissions of these gases for a defined population. For a specific system or activity or product. So, this consider all the relevant sources. This indicator, this is actually given by Kemp and Williams in 2001. This was given by Kemp and Williams in 2011. Now, this indicator involved all the relevant sources, sinks and storage. Sources, sinks and storage. The carbon footprint at all these levels. that this is actually within our spatial constraints, defined population, and I would have spatial constraint and also my temporal constraint here. So, this was one of the indicator given by these researchers. So, this is one of the indicator that is at a product level and is given by these researchers in 2011. Another indicator is that is specifically for automobile manufacturing was given by Ford, that is Ford PSI. This Ford PSI, by PSI we means Product Sustainability Index. Now, what is this? This PSI, it considers the sustainable indicators within the environmental, economic and societal emissions, all these those three pillars, those are specifically related to automobile manufacturing. I will put the name here as well, product sustainability index. So, it is automobile manufacturing and even services. So, PSI predominantly looked at the 8 different variables, 8 different variables across the 3 pillars, that is environmental, economic and social, you can even say societal as well here. So, in environmental indicators they have life cycle global warming potential, this is life cycle global warming potential. Then they have life cycle air quality potential. Then they have sustainable materials. So, by sustainable materials we mean biodegradable materials that are being used or being incorporated in automobile manufacturing here. Then restricted substances, and the last indicator here is drive or maybe drive exterior noise here, right. In economic area they had only one indicator, that is life cycle cost of ownership. If you could recall my previous lecture, we discussed what is cost of ownership. So, this is life cycle cost of ownership as one of the indicator here that is involved by Ford. Now, in social indicators they said mobility capability of the automobile, and very obvious safety has to be one of the indicators. So, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 indicators in total, and this was given by Ford. So, the next indicator I would like to discuss here is life cycle sustainable assessment. This term was given by Clever in 2008. Who uses the same approach, that is from cradle to grave, to give an indicator for green manufacturing. Now, what he says, this life cycle sustainable assessment, this one is equal to, or this one is proportional to, I would say, life cycle assessment and life cycle costing and social life cycle assessment. So please don't fall into these terms. This life cycle assessment we have discussed in detail, don't get confused by these terms. So the only difference is that this person has just changed the names, and this is more focused on costing only, this is more focused on social or societal benefits here, F is more prominent here, and this is our general life cycle assessment. So these days actually LCSA is, when we say LCA only, LCA sometimes also can be replaced as LCSA, life cycle sustainable assessment. So next are indicators, those are at industry level. At industry level, the indicator that is there is, one is Eco Compass, which was given by Fessler and James. In 1996. Now what he says, this Eco Compass, actually this was developed by Dow Chemical to provide a simple visual summary of LCA data. This all is dependent upon LCA data. Eco Compass has 6 dimensions here, which are energy intensity, then mass intensity, health and environment, potential risk, then resource conservation, extent of reuse, or maybe remanufacturing, recycling again, then service extension. So you can see these are very similar to those given by OECD. OECD has even given more detailed and maybe kind of comprehensive indicators, but this was developed way before that, right. Next is eco indicator, 99. So this was given by pre-consultants in 2000, actually in 99 only. So it is a state of art of the damage oriented life cycle impact assessment. That is, what is the damage that is there to the environment. It addresses 3 damage categories: damage to human health, damage to next is ecosystem quality and resources, maybe mineral and fossil fuels. Now damage to human health is actually represented by this term DALY, DALY. What is DALY? It is disability adjusted life years, that is what is the life years that a normal human being can live with that damage that is there due to our industrial waste or industrial impact. So, this is disability adjusted life years. And damage to ecosystem are expressed as percentage of species that have disappeared. This is actually DALI. This is percentage of species disappeared due to the environmental impact. And the resources, those are there, that is the intensity of resources that are being used here. So, next I have an indicator that was developed by CII, this is Confederation of Indian Industries, in 2011. So, they developed green co-rating system. Wherein energy efficiency, water conservation, renewable energy, greenhouse gas emission, waste management, material conservation, green supply chain, product stewardship, life cycle analysis, and some other areas like factory, ventilation, surroundings, site selection, all those were there. And they had this kind of rating criteria. So, in this case they had platinum, gold, silver, bronze and just certified ratings. These are at different levels. So, level 1 is if they get these much number of points, they actually all the indicators which I just mentioned here like energy, water intensity and other similar indicators, these all had some points associated with them and the points were given here. And it was certified that it is this companies, for example, one company is just satisfied, other company has more number of points, it is bronze, and this is a kind of a world class company, and this is national best company if it is gold, kind of national best. So, this is there in India. So, what are the number of indicators that are required to benchmark my factory or to know the state of my factory or level of my factory at the present state? So, what is there? This OECD says that at the beginning level, if you have just started thinking about green manufacturing, 1 to 5 indicators are enough to select. That is the data is and the data basis for indicator here she says selection is the data is already available and collected. So, just start with one or maybe a single indicator, we can just start with even one single one only. So, start with this one and explore your intentions towards eco efficiency, towards societal benefits. Start with something maybe 1 to 5. So, when one has started at intermediate level, more number of indicators may be included. They say it can be 6 to 12 at intermediate level when one is working towards sustainable development or working towards green manufacturing, then the priorities must be highlighted through issue identification. So, what is the specific issue they need to work on? Now, they need to know the state of their factory here at this point. Now, at second level they need to add more indicators. Now, at advanced level they said 13 to 18 plus indicators are. So, these 18 indicators are all the OECD indicators plus some specific indicators related to the factory which we are concerned with can be included. So, all indicators are relative to facility. Additional indicators may also be developed to facilitate further improvement. This is the advanced level. So, it all depends what color our factory is in the present state, and our purpose is just to go to the next step. So, this was all about the indicators that are there to know the state or level of my present state of my factory or maybe product. So, if we talk in India, the things are moving. There are certain companies who are at all the different levels here. The companies who are beginners, The small scale companies or medium scale companies, they have started this thing. There are good large scale companies who are at intermediate and advanced level as well. For instance, I would say LG has come up with LED, that is the model is LED E60, and this has 40% less energy consumption. And similarly, Samsung has also produced an LED in same lines. It has also produced LED TV, which also has 40% less energy, and also they have shown their commitment towards green manufacturing by eliminating lead and mercury from this. So, also Tata, it is actually TCS, it is contributing to agriculture and community benefits. And in a similar fashion with LG and Samsung, HCL has also come up with a notebook, that is HCLME 40 notebook, in which they do not have any PVC or harmful chemicals. So, the status in India is also good. Also like ITC has introduced a bleaching technology, that is ozone treated and elemental chlorine free bleaching. And in service sector as well, the things are going well. For example, when we ask for transaction slip in ATMs, they always give message, please do not print, avoid printing. In Indian Railways always the message is there, please avoid to print the ticket, use mobile services or online services for that. So, those are sustainable efforts towards sustainable development. So, the banking sector is discouraging the use of paper. And also Wipro is contributing, it has a technology to prevent waste, and it has most eco-friendly building in Pune. Also we have startups, those are working toward green or sustainability. Like for example, I put one or two names, Honecore is there, who does eco-friendly packing. That also they say that they try to eliminate wood from their packing. And there are other startups like Nurturing Green, they promote giving green gifts, and these gifts may be plants or organic foods. Also there are organizations who are working in agriculture sectors, and there are certain startups, certain NGOs are there, and they are working towards increasing yield of organic products, that is actually the products is vegetables and fruits. And also besides these indicators, eco compass, eco indicator and green rating system, there are also global indicators like GEN, that is global eco-labeling network. So they actually give certification for green manufacturing like CII did. So I seal is there. Then we have European Green Capital, European Green Capital. So with this I will conclude this lecture and we will come up with green manufacturing system model in next lecture. And in this lecture I have discussed various indicators at product level and industry level. Those are there to state to give us the level or state of our manufacturing concern or product. Thank you.